Hey everyone, ready for a deep dive into some serious leadership wisdom?
I'm ready.
Awesome. Today we're taking on The Hard Thing About Hard Things by Ben Horowitz.
Oh, yeah, this one's a classic.
It really is, and it's known for its, street-talking advice, coming from someone who's, actually been there in the startup world.
Right, not just some theory, he's sharing what he's lived.
Exactly. We're talking about, making tough decisions when everything's on fire, how to handle those crazy acquisitions.
The stuff they don't exactly cover in business school.
No, they don't.
This book, it's seriously a must-read for anyone, even if you're just thinking about leading a team, a project, even just yourself.
Yeah, leading your own life, for sure.
Horowitz, he just gets it. He doesn't sugarcoat the fact that there are times when there's just no easy answer.
There's that moment of, oof, what do I do now?
He calls those moments the hard thing.
Which is a pretty perfect name for it.
It is.
And he actually uses a really powerful example from his own life to kind of illustrate this whole concept. Oh, yeah, which one? He talks about having to lay off a bunch of employees at his company, Opsware.
That's got to be the toughest thing for any leader.
It's brutal. And what really hit me was how he talked about dealing with that, not just the logistics, but the emotions of it all.
It's the human side of it that gets you.
Totally.
It would be so easy to just focus on the numbers, but Horowitz, he talks about how important it is to be open with your team, even when you're giving them bad news.
Transparency, even when it's hard.
Exactly. He owns the responsibility, and that's powerful.
It really is. Maybe you think a lot about resilience, too.
Ooh, good point.
It's one thing to make a hard call, but then picking yourself up and actually moving forward.
That's next level.
Totally. Horowitz talks about this, constant struggle entrepreneurs go through.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that's only a startup thing? Or does anyone in a leadership role feel that?
The startup world, it definitely amps things up, right? But I think at its core, the struggle is universal. That feeling of not knowing for sure, second-guessing yourself, are you making the right choices?
Yeah.
But what Horowitz says is that we shouldn't just try to get through the struggle. We should, lean into it.
Embrace the chaos.
Embrace it. That's where the real growth happens, he says.
So we've got this hard thing concept, tough calls, the never-ending struggle. But the book's not all doom and gloom, right?
Right. He's actually got some super practical advice, especially when it comes to building, and leading a team.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
What parts about that stuck with you?
His thoughts on hiring are just gold.
So good.
He really drives home the point that who you hire depends on what stage your company's at. Early on, you need generalists, people who can do a bit of everything.
People who can wear a lot of hats.
Like a Swiss Army knife, ready for anything.
Love that analogy. And it makes you think about your own team. Are we at the Swiss Army knife stage? Or are we ready for specialists?
Yeah, totally. And as you grow, you need those experts, each with their own specific skill. Imagine a surgeon, you want them to be good at the one thing they do.
Right. Makes sense.
Horowitz argues that not realizing this, it can cause so much frustration and just waste time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, but what about those times when you need to let people go?
The tough stuff.
Yeah. He talks about firing people with dignity.
Hmm.
But how do you balance that with, actually running a business?
It's tricky, no doubt. Horowitz, though, he's firm that even when it's rough, treating people with respect and being honest, that's huge.
Leading with empathy.
It's about giving clearer reasons, not hiding things, offering support as they move on. You're not just saying, see ya. You're saying, hey, thanks for what you did and good luck.
Okay, let's switch gears a little. Talk about what it's like to actually be a CEO.
Mindset time.
Horowitz spends a lot of time exploring the, unique challenges of being a CEO. And it's not all fancy parties and private jets, right?
No, not even close. He keeps it real about how heavy it can be mentally.
Yeah.
The pressure of needing to make the right calls, knowing that what you decide affects everyone, your team, your investors, everybody. He's honest about how tough it can be on you.
He even says managing yourself, like your own psychology, is just as important as managing the whole company.
It's true.
So even if you're not running a giant company right now, think about a time you felt that pressure, that self-doubt creeping in. How'd you handle it?
It happens to us all. It's funny, because Horowitz, he actually gives some solid advice on how to deal with that stuff.
Oh, like how to handle the self-doubt?
Exactly. He talks about finding that sweet spot between, confidence and humility. You got to believe in yourself enough to make big calls, but also know that you don't have every single answer figured out.
Be open to learning, yeah.
And he's big on communication, too, being clear about what you're thinking.
Oh, that makes sense. If you can't explain it, how can you expect people to follow?
Exactly. If you can't get your team on board with an idea, you're going to hit a wall.
Ugh, tell me about it.
Oh,
I've totally been there, like trying to get everyone excited about something new and it just falls flat.
tough.
Maybe I need to work on how I explain things.
Maybe.
But hey, speaking of teams, what happens when they start growing? Horowitz has a whole section on scaling a business. That's
Yeah.
got to be something a lot of our listeners are dealing with.
For sure. It's funny, when we picture startups, we think of that like everyone doing everything phase,
Yeah.
right? Super scrappy.
Right, all hands on deck.
But then what? You start finding success, things get bigger. How do you keep that startup energy going while also, building structure and processes?
Right, because you need some of that to manage a bigger team.
Exactly.
It's almost like you go from this little speedboat zipping around to a
Yeah.
giant cruise ship. You can't just steer it the same way.
Love that image.
What were some of the roadblocks Horowitz hit when he was scaling Opsware?
One of the biggies he talks about is this shift from, that generalist culture to one where you need specialists.
Like from the Swiss Army knife to
To the surgeon.
yep. Okay, so you're going from a team where everyone's doing a little bit of everything to very specific roles.
Right.
Sounds like that could cause some friction if you don't handle it right.
Totally could.
Did Horowitz have any strategies for managing that shift?
He talked a lot about communication, being super clear, and setting expectations up front.
So everyone understands why things are changing.
Yeah, and how their role fits into the bigger picture. He also stresses continuous learning.
Oh, people need to keep developing their skills.
As the company changes, what you need from your team changes too.
Right, you're constantly upskilling, basically.
Exactly.
But didn't he have some pushback from his original team members? Like the people who were there from the very beginning?
For sure. And Horowitz is upfront about that. There were growing pains.
Makes sense. People are comfortable with how things are.
Some people were all for the changes, others not so much.
Yeah, that's natural.
He talks about how you got to have those tough conversations, be honest about needing different skills, and recognizing that some people might not fit in the next phase, even if they were awesome before.
Tough but true, yeah. Okay, so we've got the generalist to specialist shift. What other hurdles did Horowitz face scaling Opsware?
He's big on preserving company culture when you're growing fast. It's easy for those early values to get lost in the shuffle.
Right, how do you not lose what made you special in the first place?
Exactly. It's a balancing act for sure.
So how do you avoid that happening? How do you make sure the culture doesn't disappear?
He and his co-founder, Mark Andreessen, they were really careful about who they hired. It wasn't just about skills, it was about shared values.
Oh, like a culture fit.
Totally. They also made sure people could talk openly, encouraging feedback at every level.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about hiring. It's about creating that environment where everyone feels comfortable speaking up.
Yep. And they use storytelling, too, to reinforce the culture. Sharing stories from the early days, struggles they overcame, the values that guided decisions. Well, it's like connecting everyone to the company's past, reminding them what makes it unique.
Like building a shared history. I love that.
And that actually brings us back to Horowitz's main point, that being a leader isn't about knowing everything or being the smartest.
It's more about building a team that can handle anything.
Exactly. A team that can weather the storms, adapt, and achieve something awesome together.
Love it.
It's about empowering them, giving them what they need, then trusting them.
Trust is huge.
And knowing that they're going to mess up sometime.
Oh, yeah.
No one's perfect, right? It's about a culture where it's okay to fail as long as you learn and keep going.
I like that. Fail forward.
Exactly.
Okay, we've covered so much. From crises to teams to scaling and the CEO mindset. It's like Leadership 101 from Horowitz himself.
And what's great is he doesn't sugarcoat it. He's real about the challenges, the doubts, the setbacks.
He gets it.
But he also gives you a way to think about it all.
Yeah, a framework.
Yeah, to approach those challenges with a clear head and be ready to try things.
Experiment. Figure it out as you go.
He keeps reminding us that there are no shortcuts, though.
No quick fixes.
Building a successful company, achieving anything worthwhile, it takes hard work, dedication, and being okay with things not always going perfectly.
Embracing the messy parts of the journey.
He's basically saying, look, if you're not ready to get your hands dirty, face the hard stuff head on, maybe this leadership thing isn't for you.
That's a good reality check.
It is, and I think it's something a lot of people can relate to, even if they're not running a company.
Just trying to figure out their own path.
Yeah.
You know what's cool about this book?
What's that?
How relatable it is. You don't have to be a CEO to get something out of it.
Oh, totally. We all have those tough choices, right?
Right.
The self-doubt monster, figuring out how to work with people.
It's life, basically.
It is. Doesn't matter what your job title is.
And I appreciate how Horowitz takes all that and, like, connects it to building a company.
Grounds it in the real world.
It's not just some theory in a textbook. It's stuff you can use in your own life.
Right.
Like leading a team at work or managing a project.
Even just dealing with a tough situation, period.
Yeah, totally.
He's so good at taking these big ideas and breaking them down.
As digestible.
And he's funny, too, which helps when you're talking about this kind of stuff.
Lightens the mood. Okay, so we've talked about a lot today. Crises, teams, scaling, the whole CEO mindset thing.
We've been busy.
If you had to sum up, like, the core message of the hard thing about hard things for our listeners, what would it be?
I think the first thing is just accepting that leadership is hard.
No sugarcoating it.
There's no magic formula. It's tough decisions. Sometimes you don't even have all the info. And you got to be ready for setbacks.
It's like that saying, embrace the suck, right?
Horowitz says, embrace the struggle. It's not about running from challenges. It's about learning to handle them.
Coming out stronger on the other side.
That's it. And another big takeaway is the team. You can't go it alone. You got to build a solid crew.
Find people who get your vision.
Yeah, share your values and who will, challenge you to be better.
It goes back to what we were saying about hiring the right people at the right time.
Exactly. And then clear communication, setting those expectations, feedback. It's all about creating an environment where people can do their best.
Give them what they need to shine.
And finally, Horowitz really hits on how important it is to manage yourself, your own headspace.
Because as a leader, you're under a microscope.
The pressure is real. So learning how to handle that, build that mental toughness, it's crucial.
That's good advice for anyone, really.
It is. Life's going to throw stuff at you no matter what you do, so knowing how to deal with stress, manage your anxiety.
It's like a superpower.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's not about pretending the hard stuff isn't there. It's about acknowledging it, learning, and growing.
Finding that balance. Confident but humble.
Knowing you can handle things, but also being okay, asking for help when you need it.
Being real. So listeners, here's something to think about. Horowitz says resilience is key to leadership.
It is.
How can you build that resilience in your life, whether you're running a company or just, going through everyday life?
Yeah, what habits, what kind of mindset can help you develop that inner strength to face the challenges?
It's a good question to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts. What stuck with you from our deep dive into the hard thing about hard things?
Yeah. What are you taking away from it?
Share your questions, your big aha moments, anything.
We love hearing from you.
Until next time, happy diving, everyone.